want to welcome everybody to Tuesday, January 24th, our regular meeting. Let's stand and rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. All right, welcome, and we are into our second meeting of the new year, and we're going to go directly into public announcements. Let me expand on this. Open burning season will begin January 15th and will run April 30th. Permits are available now at Fire Headquarters, 505 Liberty Street, daily from 9 to 5. The cost of a permit is $20, payable by check or money order, made out to the town of Hanson. No cash will be accepted. Nomination papers for the May 20th town elections are now available at the town clerk's office. For more information, please contact the town clerk at 781-293-2772. The town clerk urges all voters and residents to return their 2017 census form as soon as possible. Any voter who has not returned their 2017 town census will be placed on the inactive voter list for future elections. And of course, you can use the box out in front of Town Hall, right? And save everybody a stamp, save yourself some time. All right, the Hanson Business Network will be hosting a St. Patrick's theme night on March 17th from 6 to 10 p.m. at the Needles Lodge in Camp Kewanee. A traditional boiled dinner, complete with rolls or Irish bread, coffee, and dessert will be served. We will have a full night of entertainment of your favorite Irish tunes, Irish step dances, St. Patrick's Day photo booth, fabulous silent auction, and raffle items. Proceeds from this event will benefit the Panther Education Trust and the Hanson PTO. Tickets are $20 per person. Please contact Laura Fitzgerald-Kemmick with any questions at LFITZKEMMETT@gmail.com.
You gotta shorten that up.
Shorten up not the message, the email address. He's being facetious. There you go. Okay, we have upcoming meetings. The final Plymouth County Hospital reuse is Wednesday, January 25th.
4 o'clock.
At 4 o'clock. It says here 7, so that has been changed to 4 o'clock at the police station. Still at the police station, right, Donnie?
Yes.
Okay. And we have selectmen meeting on Tuesday, February 7th and February 28th at 7 p.m. All right, do we have, we're expecting Mr. Hayes, he's not here at this time, so why don't we just go directly to new business. Discuss and vote a letter of support for a planning and grant survey from the Historical Commission. And you guys should see this under item 1. I think actually the actual grant itself is actually 1A. Is that right, Mike? Pretty sure. Full application for funding. This is it. And what we have is Mr. Tom Hickey indicated that the Historical Commission is meeting on Wednesday night, and he unfortunately couldn't attend tonight. And they'll be reviewing and voting on the application. Oh, no, that was on Monday, January 9th. I apologize. Is he here tonight? No?
No, he was unable to attend.
Unable to attend, okay. The email I'm reading from says January 9th, that's why. All right, so he's attached in our minutes. You guys should see this as
Cultural resource inventories.
I'm going to read just the introduction to the audience, okay? It's relatively pretty short. The Massachusetts Historical Commission, a division of the Office of the Secretary of the Commonwealth, is the state agency responsible for the administration of the Natural Historic Preservation Act of 1966 as amended. This act authorizes the Secretary of the Interior through the National Park Service to grant funds to states for a wide range of preservation-related activities. These include completion of cultural resource inventories, nomination of significant properties to the National Register of Historic Places, completion of community-wide preservation plans, and other survey and planning projects. The goal is to identify all significant cultural resources of the community, buildings, structures, sites, and landscapes, and to plan for their protection. So the attachment is a full application for these matching grants. Grants are 50% matching reimbursement grants. Funding priorities will be survey and planning activities. And in here, they've also listed what the eligibility for applicants is. Mike, is he looking for a vote on this? Am I correct?
Yeah. I believe it needs to be signed by the chairman.
We don't have
Okay.
specific, how are you gonna, what does it have to be signed?
Is there a,
Local
That's
project
yeah.
coordinator. What are they, oh, so they're looking for 10 grand?
yes. Yep.
Let's see.
Or you can authorize me to sign it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
Um,
So the project coordinator is Mr. Hickey. The amount of funding request is $10,000. The local share would be $10,000. The project cost would be $20,000, right?
I would assume they're looking for this to put more items on the National Register of Historic Places.
Yes, Selectman Young is correct. It's, they want to update their historical inventory, which was last done in '96, specifically with that in mind.
Okay.
Cemetery preservation, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And they've got a number of different attachments here. Work program, narrative statement, budget, matching share information, assurances, debarment. Okay.
Yeah, it sounds good, because they don't have any money left in there.
So moved.
Motion has been made to approve, allow Mike McHugh to sign. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Young. Now, the cash does say also, Mike, that the source is pending approval at the May 2018 town meeting. Is that
Mhm.
correct? Right?
Yes,
That's an important point to mention.
So he's gonna be looking for 10,000?
Yeah.
yeah.
Where's the other 10,000 come from?
From an article, would probably, a spending article.
Us, yeah, the
Okay.
town. So the federal share would match.
Yeah,
They'd match the other 10.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, any further questions or comments? Anything from anyone? All right, motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 5-0. All righty, moving on to the next item on our agenda is the vote to surplus highway vehicle 1998 Chevrolet GMT 400 pickup. And I'm not going to read the VIN number. Do I need to read the VIN number?
No,
Okay.
as presented.
Looks like an eye chart, right? Okay.
I'll move
as
it.
presented. Motion's been made by Mr. Howard,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Mitchell. Open for discussion.
I'll note, Mr. Chairman, that once the board votes on this, we'll put this to auction as well. I'm happy to say that we successfully auctioned off the old police station antenna for approximately $230. And we auctioned off the 2002 Ford that was surplused, I believe, at the last meeting or the meeting prior, for $3,500.
Wow.
So we will be surplusing, we will be auctioning off this particular vehicle, and we also intend, although it's trying to get more information on it, we also intend to auction off the cell radio tower that is sitting on
Oh,
Plymouth
the,
County.
On High
Yeah.
Street?
Yeah, yeah.
That'd be good. We should at least get scrap metal on it, but I would
Yeah.
think you'd find something on it, right? That's terrific, Mike. Mike, where does that money go? Into the general fund, or,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, it's not directed,
Not
unlike,
earmarked for any place?
no, unlike the donation that we got and auctioned off that went to the Council on Aging
Yeah.
of the motorcycle and the boat, that donation was, well, that was a donation specifically to the Council on Aging, and really the only way to get rid of it correctly was through that auction. So this stuff just goes back to the general fund, as unanticipated revenue.
Excellent. So we have a motion that has been made and seconded. We yet to vote on it. Any further discussion? Any questions? All right, all those in favor? Aye? 5-0, Mary.
Okay,
The next one's an easy one.
The next one is a good one, and this is vote to approve temporary senior van driver, Mr. Sam Hammond.
So moved.
Motion has been made
Second.
and seconded.
That was easy.
Sam has attached his resume here, and he's well-known in our town, and I want to also thank him recently, I don't mean to embarrass him, for his birthday that passed last year, right? Happy 80 years old. I think that's terrific, sir. Okay? Recently had a birthday party. It was the best kept secret in the town of Hanson, right? Big surprise, so.
Let the president ought to take and come up here and meet some of the people, so he'll know how to keep secrets.
Sure. It says that you've driven a bus for 37 years, Sam. Wow. And you want to come back to it, huh? That's terrific,
I love driving.
I'm sure. Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Any questions for Mr. Hammond?
Good luck.
All right. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. 5-0. Congratulations and thank you for stepping up, honestly. All right, Sam, always a pleasure. Next we have on our list is another favorite person in the town, Mrs. Mary Collins, Director of Elder Affairs. Mary, welcome.
Thank
You
you.
want to take a step up to the podium, please?
Behind the wheel.
Is he?
He's already making arrangements.
He's already, yeah.
I do appreciate Sam doing this because we have Sue King, who's a wonderful administrator. But every so often, she needs a little bit of a break. So, Sam, the only thing is, Sam, I'm not sure how you're going to handle all the admiration from the lovely ladies that you'll be picking up in the morning. I'll have to talk to Gladys. Fill her in a little bit.
She knows all about it.
She Well, I thank you very much for having me this evening. I am Mary Collins, the Director of Elder Affairs. I wanted to just kind of give you a brief overview of the Senior Center. And first of all, the staffing that we have at the Senior Center. The staffing that is municipally funded is the director's position, as well as a part-time administrative assistant, and also a part-time custodian. And then we have other positions that are funded through our through revenue from our Supportive Day program. And those positions are a coordinator for that program, as well as our volunteer intergenerational coordinator, a van driver, and 2 assistants that work within the program. That leads me into kind of discussing our senior center, which is somewhat different. I think every senior center in every town is very, very different. Here in Hanson, we have one of the only senior centers in this area that not only house a senior center, which people will come to for referrals, information. Really what we try and do is to try and provide as much information and support for our seniors as they age within the community, so that they indeed can stay within the community. Preventing sometimes early placement in nursing care, if we can offer, referrals and assistance in getting people to come into the home and that sort of thing. That's what the Senior Center provides, as well as, some informational programs about Medicare, Medicaid, the changes that are occurring, making decisions as we get closer to the 65-year mark, or some people even after that, making decisions about health care. All of these things kind of are what we do at the Senior Center as a senior center, or as I like to call it, a multi-service center, because we are bringing in people from every age group, because we are also the site for fuel assistance for the town. So anyone at any age would come to the town, come to the center to apply for fuel assistance. So that being said, that's the Senior Center part, and the other part is our Supportive Day program. And that's been in existence, believe it or not, for over 20 years, which I'm assuming 20 plus years ago it was very unusual to have a program like this. It's much more commonplace now. And I will say that we continue to offer, I feel, the utmost care for folks within our community who are frailer, whether it be mentally, due to some dementia, or even an onset of Alzheimer's disease, to some frailty, physical frailment, or frailty. And then sometimes it's just as people age, and if they're alone, if they've lost a spouse, or possibly living with an adult child, and the adult child is working during the day, they need something, they need a place to be. They don't necessarily need to be placed, per se, in a long-term care facility. They want to stay within their home or with their family, but they need an environment during the day that is active, engaging, and safe. And that's what we provide. For the most part, throughout last year, our average ranged somewhere between 19 and 25 clients on a daily basis. And so that allows us to have the revenue to support the positions that we currently have. And I will say, I believe that over the years, we have established ourselves not only as one of the available programs, but also one of the best thought of programs in the area. We get many, many referrals from Old Colony Elder Services, and I feel I am very involved with them, and I feel that they don't make those suggestions to people lightly. And oftentimes, because they feel very supportive of our program, and they want to see seniors take part in the program, they actually subsidize. So, currently, I believe we have 8 clients that are subsidized through Old Colony in order to come into our program. So that's a little bit of a overview of the senior center. So consequently, in that large room that you walk into, oftentimes it's a matter of trying to juggle things, activities at different times, and because there's a lot going on. And oftentimes, because of the supportive day program, we need to have a certain program for them at one period, and then for congregate at another time, so that it's not too overwhelming. So it's challenging, but it's a great challenge. I think as far as our building goes, we had our roof replaced last year. And we're looking forward. We received approval in May of 2016 for some siding to be redone. So we're looking forward to that. The only challenge we've had recently are the gentlemen at the barn were wonderful this fall, and they put down all new spacing, the lines for the parking spaces. And they did that prior to our walkway being redone. And as such, they placed handicap signs in each spot that was necessary. However, after the pavement was redone, the access to, it's like a ramp area for people in wheelchairs and walkers, that actually was a problem because it has a parking, handicap parking sign there. So we did a quick fix. I talked with Bob. He can't restripe it until the spring due to the temperature. But
That's so that the wheelchair can access the ramp,
yes,
right?
yeah.
To give them clearance.
And again, it was just, timing was everything. So we got some cones out there and some signage so that people are aware. And ever since we placed those, there's been no problem. So I'm not at all concerned. I guess, my idea was to report on December, but I'm kind of giving you an overview of everything. December, again, a very festive time at the senior center. We have a woman who is our van driver, Sue, who is also a decorator extraordinaire. So she had that place looking quite festive. But along with that came, some reality working with seniors, that oftentimes that is not the easiest time for seniors, and to try and find a little bit of one-on-one time with people to help them through if they're feeling, at a loss during that time of year, and many are. So we did our best. And now we're in January and looking into February. At this point, I've used about 54% of our budget for the year, which I think I'm right on target. And other than that, I would welcome you. Every one of our selectmen has been to our senior center, thankfully, thank you, and welcome you at any time. So,
Thank you, Mary. I think it's, honestly, I think you, your team make it's one of the things we can really be proud of, Hanson, you know, the senior, I've seen the activities that go on up there, I'm very impressed.
Thank
And,
you.
I'm looking forward to getting there in my time. I got a ways, I guess, I hope, huh? I don't know, don't rush it, thanks, okay. But, any questions for Mary? I want to thank you, Mary, for
Thank
coming
you.
in today, I'm
Thank you,
grateful for you
gentlemen.
coming in, thank you very much. That, of course, was an update from Mary Collins, Director of Elder Affairs. As a reminder, and I think it was originally Mr. Scott's recommendation to bring in department heads to give us kind of an overview of how things are going. So we've picked up on that again. Thank you, Mike McHugh. The next item I have on this, Mike, this is under here, I have is review and vote the town administrator's budget recommendations. Is that going to be kind of lengthy, do we think, or what?
No, actually, it isn't, and I'll tell you why, because the budget's not complete yet.
Okay,
We are awaiting submission from the library for reasons that I'm sure the board can appreciate.
yep,
And we're also awaiting the school committee's meeting on the 1st of February, so we can be in reception of, obviously, that major piece of our budget. I would like to report that I did meet with the FinCom chairman, the new FinCom chairman, just this evening, to discuss our strategies going forward, how we're going to basically set up the process. He and I seem to be, in tune with how to move forward. Without getting too far ahead of ourselves, we generally feel that we've got a decent forecast in terms of the budget, that we should be all right going forward. We've had conversations with the major department heads, Mary, myself, and Todd, the town accountant. We are, optimistic in terms of that we'll be able to move forward without too many problems. And hopefully be able to do some good things in the budget this year. We will next week be reviewing the capital plan and making some suggestions as to what sort of money we should be putting towards the capital plan, and we will be meeting with the Capital Improvements Committee as well. And again, I should have, I know that the bylaw calls for the budget to be to the selectmen and to the FinCom by the 31st of January, but again, it'll be a day off, just due to the scheduling of the school department. And hopefully, within the couple of days after that, Mary and I'll be able to give you the pieces of paper to put into your budget folders.
thank you, Mike. Do we have a ballpark number on free cash, or no? I didn't have a chance to look. If you don't know off the top of my head.
I don't know it off the top
Never
of my
mind.
head, but
I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
we're in.
In good shape?
Yeah, we're in pretty good shape,
All right,
yeah.
we'll take it. We just got the books to review this evening, so I apologize if we don't have much of the information. We'll review it, and we'll be able to discuss it at the next meeting, so. Thank you, Mike, for that update. I do want to let folks know that there's a school budget review meeting on Wednesday, February 1st at 7 PM at the library. And we hope that,
School library.
school library, that's
Just
correct.
wanna clarify.
Yep, not the town library, that's at the Whitman Hanson High School. So we look forward to seeing as many folks there.
Plan to post
That's a Monday, right?
Yes, I will
No,
it's
it's a
that so all the
Wednesday.
board members can
Wednesday,
go.
yes.
It's on my list to do.
Wednesday at 7 PM. And I know invitations went out to the selectmen, so. I do, thank you, Mike. I think you were done, am I correct?
Yes.
The next one we've got appointments, 3 appointments. The first one is the treasurer collector, Jeannie Sullivan, term to expire February 28th, 2020. I'd like to entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Jean. Records Access Officer at the Board of Health will now be Teresa Cosio. Is that how you pronounce it, Mary?
Yes.
Okay, good.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. 5-0, Mary. And the next we have is the South Shore Recycling Cooperative Representative, Miss Arlene Diaz.
So moved.
She has good timing, huh?
She has excellent time. Oh, yeah. Good job, good job. Motion has been made. Was it seconded?
Yes.
All right, great. Any questions? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you all for stepping up for these appointments. Next on our item, we're moving on to old business. Mr. Bob Hayes, an update on the statement of interest for the McQuon School. Bob, thank you for coming this evening.
Okay, at the last meeting where I was here, we were discussing the McQuon and whether we were gonna put an SOI in for an accelerated repair or a complete, project. We have contacted MSBA, and McQuon School does not qualify for an accelerated repair. They've been to McQuon School in the last time when we put in our full statement of interest, and they are standing by. Spoke with Diane Sullivan. I didn't. Ruth spoke with Diane Sullivan from MSBA, and McQuon does not qualify. So moving forward with that, as you know, we're meeting again next Monday night with capital improvements, but there is, on their matrix, there is a McQuon review of updates of what should be done and where we should move from there. Now, obviously, we have to hire a company, and we've been using Gale Associates right along, and they recognize some of the things that are going on, so that is going to be brought before capital improvements, and then it will be brought back to the selectmen and ultimately town meeting to make a decision, and I'll go over some of those topics as we're speaking right now. But we're going to do a full evaluation. The first evaluation that was being done and considered through capital improvements was to appropriate somewhere between $15,000 and $25,000 to evaluate the systems. Again, we're meeting with them next Monday night. What we're going to have evaluated are all the major systems in the building to see how we're going to move forward. We're talking about maybe converting the burners now boil steam, as I understand it. And again, I'm not a boiler specialist, but I spoke with Ernie again today to brush up on the terms. We're talking about maybe seeing if it's possible to convert the burners to forced hot water. They may get more longevity out of the current burners, and that system may be able to stay, but there's a lot going on because of the age of them. The burners, I understand now, create steam, and somehow that creates the heat that we need.
Right.
And again, I'm not an HVAC guy. But we also have the gym and the cafeteria that are on some sort of they have steam coils that heat that part of the building. And then there are univents in every single classroom. Mm-hmm. And that is another problematic part of the heating system. There's like 3 different types of systems in there, as I understand it. And it's very, very difficult to balance it and keep it all going. But hopefully, through this evaluation process, maybe there's a company out there or something that can change this over, because I guess you get better longevity out of what's there, and maybe we can get, but maybe we can get 10 or 15 years out of what's there. But without having a professional company come in and reevaluate this situation, we won't know where we're at dollars and cents wise, and won't be able to come back to the town and say, hey, do you want to go this way, or do you want to go that way, or what you're going to do. Also, there's electrical system problems, as we know from moving through that building. So we want to get a figure on what it's going to cost to upgrade the electrical part of the building. It's an old school type of electrical system, I guess, and again, I'm not an electrician, but that needs some updating. Also, there's been talk about sprinklers, putting them in the ceiling. Well, a few of us have looked into that, and I guess you don't necessarily have to put a sprinkler system because the ceilings are so low. Yeah. As I understand it, they can design a system that can go up on the outside wall, mm-hmm. and the heads are up high. But again, I'm not a sprinkler guy. Right. We've looked into it. But these are all the things that the company we bring in will give you a valuation on, and we'll get a price on. So we'll have a better idea and a better grasp of what that is. Okay. There's also asbestos removal to be done and remediation in that building that is also going to be looked at, and we're going to come up with a price. Also, there are handicap issues with the lifts because it's a multifaceted level in the building. You have different fold-down lifts, and those have become problematic, and they're not ADA acceptable if you get to that type of a remodeling situation, and the elevator also. So all of those things are going to be looked at so we can come back to the town with a price. There's also, and we've heard this dreaded figure, but I have to bring it up. There is a trigger amount. If you reach 30% of the assessed value of the building, and the assessed value of the building is done by the town, and I'm not sure if the town comes up with an assessed value to put a tax fee on it because we own the buildings, or they just come up with a value on the building, and if you reach 30% of that,
It's a trigger code, yeah.
it triggers other problems. As you know, we fixed some roof structures, and while I'm talking about the roof, and this is kind of all, if you'll give me a little leeway, Mr. Chairman, we're opening the bids tomorrow for the rest of the repairs tomorrow at 3 o'clock on the roof. If you could put us on the agenda for the next meeting so I can come to you with what the bids were, and the selectmen can vote on it along with the school committee, and we'll move forward with getting those repairs done. As you know, recently, we finished the repair on the gym cafetorium. That's been completed, so that's tightened up. The parking lots had some paving work done, that's tightened up. So when I come back to you with some prices, we'll have a better idea of where we stand with that building and what we're gonna do. Because the next issue is, we'll have to make the decision if we wanna put a statement of interest for a core project, and a core project meaning the change of the building. Or if you wanna put the repairs in, depending on what the dollars and cents amount comes out, whatever makes more sense is probably what we'll have to take a look at that particular time. But we're gonna be hiring a company to come in and do these evaluations. Again, it's on the capital matrix, and we're meeting with them next Monday night. So when do you meet again, so I can come to you with the facts? hopefully?
February 7th.
Okay, could you put me on
Yeah,
the
we'll
agenda
put
for
you,
that?
Mary, please, if you would remember. I'll remember to. So, that's good. Bob, do they also recommend the priorities of these repairs as well, or no?
That's hopefully what we're gonna get is a general idea of where we should go first.
Yeah,
We may think the heating system is a priority, but again, if it can be converted or somehow changed, I don't know, Jim.
right, okay. It all depends, I understand.
Yeah, it depends on what they
from
come
that.
back with. I mean, we've been operating without a sprinkler system since the 60s with that building.
Right,
I would think the sprinkler system may not be as big of a priority as the heating system. I mean, you can't be in the building if there's no heat.
right.
So, or whatever they come back with the electrical, again, it's not my field, I'm just going by what other people are, what we're doing, we're getting for reports.
Mr. Mitchell?
If we go over that 30% threshold, Mr. Hayes, does that trigger in the accelerated repair again, or not necessarily?
No, what it does is it means you have to bring the whole building up to every code
Okay.
that, and again, that's the building inspector's field, whatever codes you have to do from ADA, handicapped accessible, to anything that you might have to do to that building. And again, I'm not totally sure because we didn't get on that road.
And the second question I have, Gale Associates, will they be able to look at the heating, electrical, to be able to look at all of that for that 15 to 25 figure? Or
Yes.
do you need somebody to look at
Well,
each individual?
what's gonna happen, I think, Kenny, is they just said we should allocate somewhere in that, and they're gonna work with us to get the companies to come in
Okay.
and do this. They're gonna be part of that. They've been part of the roofing project, and they've done a fabulous job, and they were part of the roofing project on the Indian Head. We've been using them right along, and they've done a good job, and they're pretty good to work with.
Bob, if we get to the trigger and that happens, and does the MSBA take that into consideration perhaps when we do file for an SOI on the new solution?
I would assume they do, Jim.
You understand what I mean?
Oh, totally, I understand. I mean, we're gonna come back to them, and they're probably gonna think we're gonna hit that trigger point anyway, but there is a time limit on SOIs.
Yep.
And I believe on a core project, I believe the time date is April, so it's getting a little sensitive. But worst scenario is, if we miss a year, they're still in that process next year.
Right.
So, I mean, again, there's a lot going on in a lot of different dates, but the accelerated repair project time was different. It's
Right.
like for February or something, and this is like, I believe for
Core is a
April, I
month
think
later.
April 9th for core projects, because they do take more time.
Any further questions?
Only that it's a difficult situation, because 3 or 4 years ago, the MSBA said that that building should be replaced,
Right.
that it's outlived its usefulness for educational purposes. And so they went forward and granted us money to replace the building, tear it down. And that situation really hasn't changed.
No.
There's only been one system that's been replaced, or in the process of being replaced, which is the roof.
Right.
But all other systems from 3 or 4 years ago, every other system should be replaced, and that's why we don't qualify for the accelerated
Accelerated
repair program. And so, the fact that we need to replace that building hasn't changed, so it sets up a paradox between how many of those systems you want to replace and how much money are you going to spend on a building that 4 or 5 years down the road, you may not be using, you may be ripping it down or repurposing it for something else.
It could be longer than 5 years, too.
Yeah, who knows?
So, yeah.
Well, if you had a completed project today, in today's world, and we had the go right now, you're probably 5 years out.
Yeah.
Right.
By the time you broke ground, built the building, and moved in.
Right.
And there's something else that people should know that are listening this evening is, I've had a lot of people question why we replaced the whole roof. It was not the whole roof. It was the roof over the gym
And Jim.
and the cafeteria, the cafetorium is the auditorium cafeteria together. It's that part of the building. There's a ton of flat areas in that building. That roof was not replaced. Where this other bid that we're opening is to fix some of those, address some of those areas, and hopefully get some more life out of that roof.
Right.
So, I mean, part of that was brought up the last time of why would you put a statement of interest on a building that you just replaced the roof?
Yeah.
We didn't replace the whole roof. We
No,
replaced
we-
part of the
It was a
roof.
repair, and I remember
Yes.
distinctly, the gym, it used to leak during the hottest times
Oh,
because
yeah.
it would pour, and we'd go there and we couldn't find anything, and then yet if it snowed and the melt would occur, it would be leaking like a sieve, so I saw it, and I remember during the
Oh, yeah.
basketball games,
The
kids
would be
having to run around. yeah.
Running around the
They don't have to
barrels.
worry about that anymore,
Yeah.
so I honestly believe we did the right thing
Yes.
to fix it. We had to. We had no choice but to put a, dry roof over
And
everybody's
that was
head.
the original town gravel roof. It
Right.
goes back to 1967, 68.
Well, thank you. So hopefully, we'll look forward to the next update. I appreciate your coming. to
I'll
this.
be here on that date, and hopefully we'll have all the bids and we'll have some success with that, and we can move forward with that and see where we're gonna go. I mean,
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
thank you.
Any further questions? Any other questions?
You'll be back from Houston by then, Mr. Hayes?
Yeah.
That was, I looked into that, Kenny. That was not a cheap trip.
Yeah, I'm sure. Thank you, Bob. Thank you very much. Next we have on our agenda is the Whitman Hanson Community Access Contract Update. We should, I don't know, Mike, we have an agreement. I think it's under item 4. You guys should see this is, Mike, if I'm not mistaken, it's the new drafted agreement
Yes.
for 2017.
Yes.
And we're looking simply for an acceptance of this for you to sign, is that correct?
If the board is so inclined, it is, just to let the board know, I worked with Bill Solomon, basically one of the few attorneys that have an expertise in such matters. We've had several discussions. The contract basically removes a lot of the extraneous language that was in it previously, because that was a startup contract.
Right.
I believe we tightened up a few things that the Board of Selectmen wish to see in terms of reporting. And it's pretty straightforward. These are pretty typical from town to town in terms of the agreement between a municipality and a cable access corporation. I know that I have spoken with the chairman of the Cable Access Committee, and I believe, I don't want to speak for her, but I believe you're comfortable with the contract?
I do have some questions.
Okay.
I do, and Eric,
Eric
I
is
want
in.
to introduce our new executive director, Eric Treasure. We've both gone over the contract, and I do have questions. First one I have is on page 4. I'll come up here.
Arlene, would you just say your name for the audience?
Oh,
No worries.
Arlene Diaz.
For the people at home.
Yeah. So, this is section 3J,
Mhm.
which says that even The obligation to cablecast these meetings will remain regardless of the funding available to it in Hanson Access. So at the point where we have no money, we're still obligated to provide a service. And I don't know how you do that.
I'm looking at section J. What area?
Parentheses.
Right here, this is the obligation,
Oh, the obligation to cable,
right here.
And it's in the
that
middle of
these meetings shall remain regardless of the funding available to it in Hanson Access.
which is that we have to provide coverage for the Board of Selectmen, town meetings, school committee. But this is saying that even when we no longer get funding, we're still liable.
Should,
If we didn't get funding, right, that we still have to cover these meetings.
do we,
Well, I would imagine if you didn't get funding, you wouldn't be in existence.
Well, that is true, but this document still says that we have to do it.
well, was the intent that we needed to do it, Mike, obviously to cover meetings, maybe while we work something out? Or no?
These meetings have all been covered.
No, I know,
Oh.
but I'm saying if you ran out of funding, right? And we're still kind of saying, we want you guys to still record the meetings, right?
Right.
While we figure out what happened with the funding. What would have happened with the funding, right? Wouldn't you have stayed on budget?
Yeah, and you would have known
Yeah.
long before, because Comcast would have to explain to you why they're not providing the funding as part of the license agreement.
Right.
What's the total amount of funding you get in down there on a yearly basis, do you know?
For Hanson?
Total amount?
Yeah. It's supposedly 4.75% of all, it's 4.75% of the
Of
total.
their total revenue, so the last quarterly payment we got was for Hanson, was probably $77,000.
No.
No, that's Hanson,
Okay.
that's Hanson. Before that, it was less,
Yeah,
and it depends on the subscribers.
right.
And how hungry they are for on-demand content.
How often does it come in quarterly? or
Quarterly,
Quarterly?
that was a quarterly payment.
But part of our cable contract, Mike, I thought they're supposed to be funding the cable access.
But this says after there's no funding, we are still obligated to cover.
Which is kind of a
Hanson.
I don't see how you can operate if you have no funding.
Yeah, it's kind of a paradox.
That's our point.
It's kind of
You
a
can send me
paradox.
shows, but if I don't have the money, I can't come back with anything.
Yeah, it's kind of a paradox, because like, you know, like we just kind of agreed that if there's no funding, that there wouldn't be an existing
Right,
corporation,
right,
so.
that says we're still liable.
Should we take this back to the attorney?
Well,
Because-
I mean, I'm comfortable, personally, I'm comfortable if the board is comfortable in striking this
Yeah. this
and
one-
having the board vote with the understanding that this has been so amended. And I'll have the board sign still this evening, and I'll have Arlene sign this evening, representing the Cable Access Corporation. And I'll make that, and it'll be public, I'll make that one change to this particular section.
We could vote to remove this section, or is it I don't know, my thoughts are that we should probably have the legal review that statement and find out what the intent was, Mike, because you're right, it doesn't make sense. I'm wondering if they worded it incorrectly. You know what I'm saying? I wonder if the intent is not the way it's worded here.
Yeah, we did notice that there was some funny grammar around there.
Yeah,
All the
you-
parentheses, they kind of jump in and unless continues after the parentheses, so.
And this is
It's
the
a little-
longest
It's
sentence
a very-
I've ever
We should see
seen.
what other concerns she has too.
I do have other concerns, but yeah.
No, I know, but just my opinion is that we should probably take it back to the attorney and find out what the intent was, and if it is, if the language is correct, it doesn't make sense, Mike, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then I would think that we would want to review it.
That's fine.
Do we have to have this, is there a
No,
deadline?
No, certainly
Right?
is not, it's just
We're
something
well
we wanted
past
to.
that.
I mean, would you
Yeah.
guys be okay with that? You don't have to go my way, you can do it your way too, whatever, if there's a better way.
No, that's the way we should do it.
The way the lawyers talk sometimes, you know, God help us, huh?
I don't think we could take it out if we wanted to.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with you going.
We'll have them
back to him.
we'll run it by him and see what the intent was, and you're absolutely right, I see what your point is, if you're not there to do it anymore, who's going to? Why put
Right, how
the
can we do
sentence
it?
there, which doesn't make sense, so.
And I think with the other reporting that you've got in this,
Yeah.
you're going to know all of that well ahead of time.
Right,
Right.
so is the general consensus okay with the board if we just have Mike go back to the attorney to review this?
Sure.
I think it's-
Well, I think at this point, Mr. Chairman, since we're gonna table this,
Yeah,
that as opposed to having this discussion right now, you and I can sit down and we can go through your concerns.
Okay.
And I can bring back a finished product that you are comfortable with.
Yes.
And that the board and your board can sign. So we see each other all the time, so.
Right.
Yeah, we do. So we can set aside some time and I can address the concerns that you have.
That's fine.
Did you find
That's
that?
fine. That works.
That's a good idea, and then you could just briefly let us know what those items were, Mike, into it, okay. Honestly, I thought it was, but you know what? I could think 4 different ways from reading this sentence.
Is this gonna go retroactive to when the other one expired, a couple of years ago? What's the
Well,
date on
there's
that?
no really point to cover when it
This
expired.
was
It'll
just item
start,
J, right?
it'll,
This was just item J.
That was one of a couple of things.
2014.
But
So it
Mike
is.
and I can sit down and go through the rest of the agreement.
So this will start when the other one expired?
no, this will start when you sign it.
You're right, because
Okay.
the other one expired.
There's
This one, it
there's
says
no
the-
reason really to cover the,
The date, it says November 30th, 2014, and November 29th, 2024.
But I think
Yeah, well, that-
something else- Yeah,
yeah, no,
That's why I wasn't sure.
yeah, no, it shouldn't.
Okay.
It really doesn't need to.
This doesn't, isn't it supposed to run concurrent with the cable license?
I think, yeah.
I think that's the
right,
point
that
of
that
those
was the point,
dates.
it was supposed to.
It runs concurrent with those.
So we'll sit down and touch on those.
All right, are there any further questions from the Board of Selectmen? So I think what's been decided is that Arlene will take the concerns from this group and present it to Mike, and then come back to us on what the changes are.
How long is this contract for?
10 years.
10 years.
It would end, I believe the way it's set up now. it would
24.
end In 24, 25, when the license ends. I believe you put the same date, for this to end as the license.
They've got the indemnification clauses in here under insurance, you know, all this. I think that's terrific, so we'll table it until we're ready.
Until the next meeting.
Till the next meeting?
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, it doesn't sound like there's early.
All right, sounds cool. I know that we had, and I don't want to get too far off the topic, and obviously we all miss Mr. Roy. We had spoken to him on what some of the newer items that he might be trying to bring to the town, which one of the items was we were going to try to see if we could record all the other meetings as well, maybe the finance meeting, or maybe some of the more important meetings too. And we were looking at possibly getting cameras to do that, and maybe contacting Whitman Hanson High School, because they've got some folks, there's some young kids in the audiovisual that we could take, maybe schedule them to work for, whatever, I don't know, maybe they can get credit for it from community service, what have you. But I just wanted to put that out there. I'm not asking for anything on it, but just remind.
We've already begun developing a relationship with the school.
You did, great.
Yes.
Okay,
There with the meeting today with them, Jackson.
okay, cool.
So, yeah, we're gonna be doing a lot with that partnership. I think.
All right. Are there any further comments or questions from anyone? All right, thank you for coming in. Do we need to vote to table it? No, we shouldn't
No.
have to, right? The general consensus, I think, from this board is we're okay with it. If there are any objections, please state. All right, we're good. We'll table it for next time. Thank you all. Thank you both for coming in.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it. Nice to meet you both. Okay. So with the next item we have is the final Plymouth County Hospital reuse status update under old business. Would that be you, Mike? Or is
Yes.
it mine? Wasn't sure if
I
it was
just
you.
wanted to, and hopefully I'll be doing this at each of the meetings until we no longer have a hospital there. As it stands right now, there are only 2 structures that we plan on remaining, other than the administration building and the structures on the street. We're obviously, and I discussed it earlier, the communications tower was going to remain until I can possibly auction that off. And I did have a request by the Historic Commission to see if it makes any sense to hold on to a small animal barn of interest. So I've talked with the building inspector about it. He has some concerns about its viability going forward. So I will address that issue with the Historic Commission, and we'll move from there. But it's slated to still stay right now, but it's up in the air as to whether we really should retain it.
Okay.
There is still a back and forth with Mass DEP in regards to the non-traditional asbestos abatement work plan. It actually should be completed fairly soon. I'm actually told probably within the next couple of days. That includes a review of all the individual setups for decontamination and the equipment and personnel. Other than that, I met with Selectman Howard and his subcommittee, I believe it was on the 18th of January. And one of the discussions that we had was an interest in that board coming before this board at its next meeting. It seems to me, and I don't want to get too far ahead of myself or speak for the committee, but it seems to me that committee has some pretty set, they've come to a consensus as to what they'd like to do going forward, and certainly Selectman Howard can correct me if I'm incorrect. But what I wish to ask the Board of Selectmen to do is, over the course of the next week, 2 weeks, prior to that meeting, give some consideration as to what you think the future of that site should be. Because I really think at this point, we need to take the bull by the horns and move forward on putting something before town meeting, putting something before the citizens of Hanson as to what the future of that site's going to be. So I would ask if I can put the subcommittee on the agenda for the 7th, and ask the Board of Selectmen to be prepared to have that conversation.
That would be terrific. I think that's a great idea to have them come give us some options. Any other comments from anyone?
No, that was my update.
That's your
Yeah.
update?
Yes, sir.
I don't have anything.
You'll be ready in the
They
7th?
are, as far as I know, they're working up there now, so.
Yeah, I think the goal was to kind of do it during the winter time, right? Because they can keep, with all this mist,
Well, the way the weather is and so
Yeah.
forth and so,
keep the dust
they'd be
down.
able to work on it, so.
Right. Mike, that would be terrific. I think the general consensus, if I could speak for the board, would be we'd be welcoming them on the 7th, and we'll certainly take into consideration some of the items up there. We also have a number of surveys, about half a dozen, if I'm not mistaken, that were actually conducted up there on options on how to treat that,
Yes.
that site, and we should take those into account as well. So,
They have to take all the hazardous materials out of there now before they start anything,
sure.
so that when they start demolishing it, there won't be any
Any
hazardous
asbestos?
materials or anything floating around.
Terrific. Glad to see it with this town, we're finally moving forward with that piece of property after 16-plus years, right? Right, Kenny? I think it's 16 years, yeah. All right, any other further comments or questions? All right, moving on. We are at the review and approve the proposed recreation policies and procedures. You should see that as item 5 on your iPads, as the Hanson Recreation Commission policies and procedures. This is dated, adopted by the Hanson Board of Selectmen on January 24th, 2017. Mike's made some changes. I've seen the changes that I've interested in there, Mike, which is obviously if we deviate from the price that that is being voted by the board, presented to the administrator, by the Recreation Board, presented to the administrator, and then it's brought forward to the Board of Selectmen. I think that was great.
Oh.
I was looking for that intentionally. Mike, did you want to speak to these?
Yeah, actually, what I wanted to mention, Mr. Chairman, is I'm actually, at this point, interested in the Board of Selectmen instructing me, which was my plan anyways, but I would like the board to validate my thoughts. Instruct me to attend the first meeting, which I was going to do anyways, but the first meeting of the reconstituted Rec Commission this Thursday. Present these policies and procedures to that committee for their potential input. I would prefer, at this point, since we do have the committee in place, and our intention, or this, authoring this particular policies and procedures started well before that we had the reconstituted committee, but since they're there, I would like to present it to them, see if there's any input from them Thursday night, or, ensuing input from them, and and then bring it back to the board. The,
I think that's the right.
there are a few things, and I believe that that commission will agree, there are a few things, like you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, that are, you know, non-negotiable in a sense. But there are a lot of other things that perhaps they can provide some of their insight, and we can tweak and move some things around or add some things. But I think what I presented to you this evening is a pretty solid and a pretty complete document. And so I don't imagine there'll be too many changes to it, but certainly we welcome their input. It's, you know, it's a joint effort from here going forward.
I think it makes sense since we have a commission in place, and it's actually their task to be reviewing these and to setting these.
Well, they should be reviewing them and then bringing them to the Board of Selectmen for the Board of Selectmen's
To
final
approve.
I
approval.
like that.
Yep. I read it and I liked what I read, so I don't know if anybody had any questions on anything that
Well, I
was in
just had
here.
a couple that I'd like to mention.
Mr. Young?
But the first one was the role of the board under the organizational point.
What page? Page first?
First page. I'm assuming, or I should recommend that should be somewhat verbatim to the 1990 article voted by the town that established the Recreation Commission. That would be my only comment on that. You may want to expand on that, because right here it only mentions the setting of policies and procedures, and annually develop a written goals and objective plan. When the 1990 article, which hasn't either been amended or changed at this point, there's other things included in there, in addition to the setting of the goals and the policies and procedures.
Certainly.
So that would make sense, Mike, because, let me ask you a question, because I just noticed, so it says for Parks and Recreation Department, right? Should it say at Camp Kawani, or does that include Camp Kawani?
Where
Are
do
we
you see
talking,
that?
because our Parks and Recreation is actually separate.
Yeah, where did,
It's under,
oh,
it's
yeah,
under the
yeah,
role of the board?
yeah. The park should not be there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, if the parks comes out, it makes.
He's gonna
Yeah, I
remove
think Bruce is right, that
It's
should
gonna remove the
mirror
parts.
what that was approved for back in, you know,
1998?
90, what year was
Yeah.
it?
4?
94?
94.
94.
Yeah,
That should
the
definitely
the
mirror
only
that.
other one I had,
It's right on
I
the
think that I
first page,
mentioned
right?
it to you,
Yes.
Kenny, was the
Commission.
$1,000 deposit.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no, I agree with that.
That maybe that should just apply to weddings rather than somebody
Yeah.
going in and having a
What
party.
Bruce is
And
saying
I
is
was
if,
thinking maybe that should be changed to 50% of the.
yeah, if you have a
Of the
birthday
value-
party,
of the value of
yeah,
the
and the birthday
contract.
party's only 1,000, you shouldn't be required to put down $1,000 deposit.
Actually, I'm glad you brought that up, because I
Be
do
based on
remember,
whatever activity
I
you're
do
renting
remember
for.
having that discussion within the last several months, that
Yeah.
someone had come before us, and I believe you and I spoke about it too, Bruce, that it did seem a little
High?
excessive, yeah.
Should be a percentage of whatever the total
Yeah.
value is.
Yeah, and I certainly don't
20%,
disagree with that,
25%,
and we had talked about
Get
it,
a
so.
$400 rental, maybe 20% of that.
But a wedding should be
Yeah,
1,000.
wedding should stay that.
Yeah.
But I still want them to be able to, but let's just say for the worst case scenario, somebody gets up there, even though you might only have 10 people, one person just goes nuts and does more than $1,000 worth of damage, they're still gonna be paying for it.
Well, then we'd seek charges.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, their deposit shouldn't exceed what they're paying for the facility.
You know, we pursue legal, avenues at that point.
yeah, the deposit doesn't override the indemnification clause in the rental agreement,
Yeah.
which would, if somebody did go nuts up there,
Yeah.
then that person is held responsible.
Because there's a cost in chasing it too, so.
Oh, that damn software thing.
I know.
Okay.
Make sure you remind me later. All right, Mike, that sounds good. So so the Recreation Board convenes for the first time this Thursday at 7? Is that correct? At 7, is that correct? 7?
Yes.
Up at Camp Kawani, Needles Lodge, right?
Sounds good.
That does sound good. That makes sense since now we have a rec board. Any other further questions, comments? Those are the only two items? Mr. Scott?
Under, I think it's talking about the grounds and some of the rules and what have you, it's under number 10 in the there's a statement there that said firearms are prohibited. That is totally unenforceable, okay? You know, are we gonna have pat-downs up there, metal detectors or something of that nature? You would hope, and God forbid anything ever happens up there that involves firearms. If we take a position that that's going to be a gun-free zone, I'd like to see the word firearms prohibited struck from that. Hunting and trapping should be prohibited. But, you know, I was involved in police firearms training for 30-plus years. I see what goes on nationwide as we see it today. People should understand that shootings happen in seconds. Policemen respond in minutes, SWAT teams in hours. A lot of damage and injury and death can occur in a very few seconds. NRA subscribes to the fact that how you stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. And I hope, God forbid, that ever happens in the town of Hanson, much less Camp Kewaunee. But it is an unenforceable, I go along with no hunting, no that type of thing, but President Trump has already stepped up. He's going to take a hard look at the Second Amendment and make sure it applies to everybody nationwide. He may even look into reducing, he's going to allow nationwide right to carry, reciprocal issues. He's also looking at the right to carry in what it might be referred to as gun-free zones, and it may even include schools. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do or not, but I think that article in there, I don't support that.
Bill, I'm looking for the exact language. Can you tell me where it is again?
It's number 10 on,
Okay. Under what subject?
I agree with Mr. Scott. If you have a store and you take a piece of paper and you put no guns allowed, that's not enforceable. You know, if you have a Class A license to carry, then you're allowed to bring it in, and the store owner can't come after you because you put a sign up that said that. So, I do agree with that statement.
Firearms are prohibited, but we're gonna keep, but you're proposing to keep in
In
the
other words,
sentence.
even if you have that there, you can't enforce. If somebody comes in and they have a license to carry and they have their gun concealed, you can't enforce that because you have that right there. I think that's what, one of the things you're trying to say, and it shouldn't be there.
basically, and I'd like to leave in,
You're
obviously.
leaving the hunting and trapping.
Hunting
Yeah,
and trapping,
that-
you know, should not be allowed in there.
on
It's
property.
a family facility and everything. For consideration,
It makes
that's my
sense to
position.
me. So Mike, can we take that to the rec board on Thursday? Yeah, no. In this day and age, I can understand why it was added though, but okay. I understand your point, Bill, too. It's kind of a common sense law, you know? I just don't want somebody who's not authorized with a license bringing in a gun up there.
Well,
Yeah.
you can't control that anyway, quite honestly.
Well,
That's
call
why you have
police
police.
on them.
The
Yeah.
schools
That's
are
yeah.
protected by statute. You have to receive permission if you're not a police officer from the headmaster to come on the property with a firearm. That may or may not be good, but that's the way it stands at the current time.
So no firearms at the meetings, all right, Brian? We get it? Yeah. Are there any other changes or recommendations? All right, so those are 3 changes to it, and I don't think you're looking for a vote from us on this, right, Mike?
No.
Any other questions from anybody? All right, I'm going to move on. Next item on our agenda.
I'm sorry, I have one quick question. On the email address, why is the email address Verizon.net not a town email address?
Well, there is a town email address as well.
There is?
Yeah, there's actually, if you remember, there was a length of time in which the operation was being run through a Gmail address. And it's still, people still use it because it's out there. And, we've made sure that computer system is fully integrated with the town computer system now, and that there are ma.gov addresses, and we're trying to get people to move over towards using them, but that address is still out there. So I want to make it clear that even though that's a Gmail or Verizon address, that is a town address, and any information coming or going from that address is considered town, proprietary, well, not proprietary, but town information.
Right, okay, gotcha.
And of course, any changes to these can be done, right, Mike, with the Recreation Commission, and they make the change, make the recommendation, present it to you, and then bring it to us,
Yes.
bring it to the board.
That's all I have.
We good? All right. Moving on to the next item we have on our agenda is the Town Administrator's Report, Mr. Mike McHugh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to be short because I touched upon a few things already with the agenda items. I wanted to let the Board of Selectmen know, and I certainly didn't want to do this arbitrarily. The board may be aware of the fact that one of the changes that the governor had put in place during the municipal modification bill is that the town administrator or the town manager now has the authority to allow deficit spending in the snow and ice. So I certainly didn't want to do that in a vacuum. I wanted to make sure the board was, and the public was fully aware that we are going to move into that. I am going to authorize that probably within the next couple of days or so. We are currently at $40,000 left in that particular account. We're only halfway through the winter. We know what happened a few Februaries ago. I don't want the operation to be caught flat-footed if we get struck by something in the next couple of weeks or so. So I am going to allow, through my authorization, the deficit spending on that particular account. But again, I wanted to make the board fully aware that I was enacting that.
You actually sent me an email on that, Mike. I forget if you sent it to the entire board, but I remember that, and thank you for that. Because you didn't have to, but it was a good idea too.
Oh, yeah, well, certainly. I mean, it's such a change, and I'll inform the FinCom as well, because the FinCom was also a sign-off on that particular authorization in the past.
Mike, what's that line, 250? 250,000?
Yeah.
It was.
Quick question, if I may. If the governor declares a state of emergency, how does that affect your ability to deficit spend, or does it limit it?
It doesn't, no, it doesn't limit it. No, actually, it's preferable, because then more than likely it'll put us in line for some federal assistance.
Reimbursements and
Yes.
things of that. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, it's much preferable. Also, at the meeting with the school committee on February the 1st, and I know the board has been interested in this, and I have been working with the school department on this. They are going to discuss forming a committee to review the regional school agreement. So I think I had mentioned to the board when I last updated them that they were reaching out to the Massachusetts Association of Regional Schools. So they are going to give a full presentation. They're going to name members. They're going to ask for possibly for members of the Board of Selectmen to participate, as well as myself. So just an update to the board that that subject will come before the school committee, or will be discussed at the meeting, and we can continue to move forward on that. I will be attending a GIS software demo with the town planner and the assessor in Whitman on Thursday. We're hopeful to get some grant money to improve the GIS system here in Town Hall. We're joining with a number of communities in the area to try to be successful in gaining that grant money. So I'm going to attend that as well, because I think it's important for the town. And I also wanted to report to the board that Friday morning I'll be meeting with Representative Josh Cutler. We're continuing our discussions on possible economic development on Main Street, and some discussions, I think I'd mentioned it to the board, what we might be able to do to proactively do something with the old liquor store next to the old fire department.
Yep.
And that's all I have for tonight, sir.
Thank you, Mike. In relation to the snow emergency item, getting back to that, I just want to say that Mr. Brown had sent a letter to you regarding that, right? And I'd like to
Yep.
read it.
Yes.
The Town of Hanson. The Town of Hanson Highway Department snow account has been expended, therefore I'm requesting the Town Administrator, Board of Selectmen, and the Finance Committee declare a snow emergency as stated in Chapter 44, Section 31D of the Massachusetts General Laws. Snow emergency is needed not only for sanding and plowing, but to restock salt and sand for the snow and ice removal. So I thought that was necessary to read, because people might say, what's going on if we haven't had much snow? But it's needed to restock salt and sand.
Yeah, I think people, and understandably so, they don't understand, or they don't see the fact. Because if you don't see snow, you're thinking,
Right.
there's really no activity, but there's an awful lot, especially when we get rain and it freezes over, an awful lot of salting and sanding that needs to be done, and an awful lot of prep work. So the money unfortunately does still get spent, although I prefer that over snow.
Right. And our highway department does an excellent job in maintaining our roads. I do have an item on our agenda from the South Shore Vote Tech. I'd like to read it very quickly if I could. The South Shore Regional, because we did tell that the budget, the school budget will be done next February 1st, Wednesday at 7 PM at the high school library. This is for the South Shore Regional Vote Tech. The South Shore Regional School District Committee wishes to remind you that it will hold a public hearing in accordance with the provisions of Chapter 71, Section 38N of the general laws on Wednesday, January 25th. So that's tomorrow night at 7 PM in the Brass Lantern Restaurant of the South Shore Vocational South Shore Vocational Technical High School Building, 476 Webster Street, Hanover, Mass., for the purpose of discussing the July 1st, 2017 to June 30th, 2018, 12-month period, financial budget for the school district. And the Regional School District Committee would like to invite representatives of the board and advisory or finance committees from each of the member towns to this hearing, as it will enable a complete discussion of the proposed school district budget for the year of July 1st, 2017 to June 30th. Details of the budget will be provided for each representative attending the hearing. He has a telephone number here to advise any representatives will be
I'm
attending.
gonna try to make that, Mr. Chairman, tomorrow.
Thank you, Ken.
It's tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night at 7 PM at the Brass Lantern Restaurant.
At the school.
Yes, yes.
Restaurant there.
It'll be good, because then if you can go to that, Kenny, and if you're not able to go next week, then I can do that one next week.
On the
at high
1st.
school. Yep, so we got right representation. Of course, anybody from the board is more than welcome to come, right? And hopefully we'll see the public there, too. All right, the next item I have on our agenda are the committee reports. The Monpont Pond Committee, Mr. Howard.
They have not met, and the only thing I can say on that is, I was over there Saturday, and Brockton has yet to take any water this year. I don't know, it was still down about 6 inches from being at 52 feet. So whether or not this rain that we've been getting for the last day and a half or 2 days is gonna bring it up, I don't know. But I went by there Saturday, and they were not taking water. Silver Lake's down over 8 feet.
Thank you, Donnie. Next item we have is the Indian Head and McQuon Priority Repair Committee.
We haven't had a meeting, but I did have a conversation with the vice chair, Mr. Jones, and we are of the opinion that we will be setting a meeting in the next 2 weeks to discuss the things that Mr. Hayes went over tonight regarding the possibilities of another core SOI versus the priorities that that McQuon school needs regarding the systems that are in
Yep.
failure, basically.
That's great. So I'm glad to see.
So that we can all be in sync and, working towards the same goals.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, next item we have on our agenda is the Highway Building Committee. Mr. Scott?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we haven't had any recent meetings. I've had some conversations with Mr. Brown, the highway surveyor, on a number of issues that, with what's going on in order to move forward with that. Just one thing I would like to mention is the new facility, if that should go forward, just what we addressed earlier tonight about salt and sand, the new facility will include a sizable salt and sand facility or shed, so that Mr. Brown has to keep hauling all winter long just to replenish what they're using. I don't know if they can get any better pricing different times of year if they stock up early in the year, but it also is advantage to them to stock up and have an ample pile of sand and salt available to serve the town in the case, because every city in town is also reaching out for that same resource. So if we have a facility, hopefully, if this all goes forward, to store more salt and sand, he'll be able to better serve the town. So just a little plus if we do move forward with that, but thank you.
Thank you, Bill. So, Bill, are we thinking of having something to present to the people in May on this?
What's happened is we're waiting to hear back from GEI, which is the lead engineering company down there. They're finishing their cleanup and I understand the cleanup is either all done or very close to being done. The only thing left to be done is to plant shrubs and things that have been asked for by DEP and Conservation to protect. They're also building the turtle sanctuary and all the things that are adjacent to where the highway facility will be.
Okay.
But as I stated before in other meetings, they cannot subdivide that property to the town until the project is complete and signed off by the Army Corps of Engineers, DEP, all of those. It appears that is all going to happen. It's just the time element that will affect that. So it may even not be ready for spring town meeting.
Okay.
And I can't say that. I would hope that maybe that might be something we can move on, but.
Well, it makes sense, so they can't do anything until the project is complete.
Right.
I get you.
They would have to reapply for all new permitting if they subdivide.
Okay.
And obviously, they've got their permitting, they just want to complete the project.
All right, thank you. Next item I have is final Plymouth County Hospital Committee update.
Tomorrow night, 4 o'clock at the police station, and everybody's welcome.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Howard. There was one update I wanted to pass on. I received a phone call, Mike. I forget the thing, what it's called, it escapes me. But it was up at the Hanson Middle School. There was a repair needed because the parts are no longer available to a heat controller. I think that's what it was. Ernie Sandlin give you a call with Christine. I received a call last Friday on the issue, and it was a $30,000 part that they were looking at. I'm waiting an email in detail on it. I was hoping to get the information forwarded on to you for the Indian Head Priority Repair Committee group, okay, to review. Once that information comes across, I promise I'll forward
That's at
you.
Indian Head?
No, it was up at the Hanson Middle School.
Oh, the middle school.
The middle school, yes. I know, Ernie, we asked about the part being under warranty. It's not. Apparently, it's an older part they no longer make. I believe it's some sort of a controller, heat controller of some kind. So, again, I'm waiting the details, and once I get more information on that, I promise we'll pass it on to the
Yeah,
public.
and I'll reach out to him tomorrow.
Thank you, Mike. But I was glad to get a phone call from Ernie and Christine on it. Christine Suko, Finance. All right, any other questions or topics to be brought up? I think we're ready to move on to our next item, which is executive session to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining session or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, fire chief, and highway surveyor.
So moved.
Second.
We need a roll call vote.
Yes.
I'm in favor.
In favor?
I'm in favor.
Yes, in favor.
Thank you all for attending tonight. Drive safe going home. Stay warm and dry.